In this episode, I'm continuing my build of the Amati 1-100 Chinese Junk. This video will show my struggles with the cannons and my triumphs over the ship's anchors, boats, masts, and standing rigging. My ship modeling has been entirely European up to this build, so I decided to research the cannons on board 18th to 19th century Chinese ships. Information is a bit sparse, but I was able to determine that a wide variety of guns were used aboard junks, with pragmatism being the rule of the day. Many Chinese junks used guns that were adapted from land-based light siege weapons. Many were mounted on skids instead of rolling gun carriages. Most were muzzle-loading, while a few of them were early breech loaders. By the mid-17th century, trade and conflict with the Portuguese and the Spanish mariners saw the use of European-style naval cannons on junks. This is handy since the guns and carriages that come with the Amati kit are clearly European design. I gave the parts a quick bath in vinegar and salt, and then detergent to get rid of any oils from the casting process and to knock down the glossy shine. I painted the carriages red and used epoxy to bond the guns to the carriages. Like European ships, Chinese guns had a strong breeching line to control the recoil when the gun was fired, and gun tackle to run the gun back out once it was reloaded. Because of the size and scale of this ship, I ran into trouble successfully rigging both for each gun. With the heavy breeching line in place, the addition of the block and tackle on each side of the guns looked cluttered. I opted to omit the training tackle and just leave the recoil lines draped on the deck for a cleaner look. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I won't describe the ordeals I had trying different arrangements of blocks and eye bolts and the colorful language that I used during the process. I usually enjoy rigging guns and arranging the deck lines, but this time I had to surrender. The anchors of an Asian ship look quite a bit different from the familiar iron or steel designs on European ships. Early Chinese anchors were made from two crooks of tree branches lashed together with a stone between them for weight. Later anchors kept this design but used lead or stone-filled bamboo. The Amati kit has a nice pair of anchors that are easily assembled. The kit includes very decent anchor hawse that allowed me to actually do some mini marlinspike work in splicing the eye around the anchor and wrapping the hawse with some black thread. I'm pleased with the result, and they look very nice hanging on the catheads. From the catheads, I moved to the other end of the ship to build the frame for the ship's boats or sampans. There are a pair of these boats, one a bit smaller than the other. The larger is slung from a block and tackle beneath the frame, and the smaller is lashed to the top of the frame. The frame itself is simple in design but difficult in execution. The two booms that project from the hull require a bit of complex mortising in order to match the tumble home of the hull. How I wish I had done this step before mounting the hull to its display base. It would have been so much easier. The sampans are made of resin. I had intended to scratch build copies of these and forego the resin ones, but I am anxious to conclude this build and get on to the next ship in my stash, so I used the resin ones. A detergent wash, a coat of primer, and some paint made this part of the build go rather smoothly. The smaller sampan was epoxied upside down on the frame and lashed in place with some cordage. The bottom one got a pair of eye bolts in the stem and stern and hangs from a block and tackle. On to the masts. Masts on a junk are a single step with a taper of about 2 millimeters over its length. To taper each mast, I chucked the dowels in a power drill and used sandpaper to remove material. If you do this, go slowly so you don't burn your fingers. The top of each mast has a small extension with a pair of round beads that will be important when the sails are added and rigged. There is also a cross tree that looks a bit like a weather vane that forms the attachment point for the standing rigging. The standing rigging for each mast is very simple. There are no ratlines, and the equivalent of the shrouds is a horseshoe-shaped line attached to the deck in two places, highlighted here in blue, and that is tensioned with a halyard in red that is belayed just afore of the mast. It's an elegantly simple arrangement. Well, that's where I'm leaving the junk for now. This small bit of progress since the last video seems like it took me much longer than it should have. Next episode, I'll be tackling the sails and running rigging. These are very different from the sails and rigging of European ships, so I'm sure it will be a challenge. Anyway, thanks for watching this episode and have a great day.